It's hump day, Johnny. That means it's time for the Hulahan, and even more so, it's time to give them a market update. What's going on?
Love it, Danny. Just noticed my shirt matches my mustache. It's silver and black.
Changing it up, but going away from the red now. So I like
Dude.
it.
Yeah,
Is this a
man.
new shirt?
No, it's a classic. Manaola. I like that brand. Got a nice store there in
Classic.
Ala Moana.
You want
Yep.
some cool Hawaiian shirts? You just gotta ask Johnny where to find them.
I'll tell you where to go. Well, maybe I won't.
Depends on how nice you are. If you're nice,
That's
yeah,
it.
we'll let you know.
There it is. Well, Danny, you dangled a cliffhanger on Monday, man. What's the scoop
Oh,
with
I
Mayor
did.
Bisson there? Yeah, man.
So
What's the
I
scoopy?
caught a glimpse of a little South Maui community meeting where
Mm.
Mayor Bisson talked for about 10 minutes and gave kind of an update on his thoughts behind the Minatoya list, vacation rentals, housing, and he had a lot to say in a short amount of time, and some was helpful and some was confusing.
Mm.
But I would say he's prefaced everything by saying local housing is important, and he wants to figure out solutions that help this. And the Minatoya list is one of the angles that they're utilizing to approach this. He didn't talk about anything else that they're working on, but he said the Minatoya list is one thing. So his now focus, originally it was about 7,000 apartment zoned condos, houses that he was suggesting remove their rental status, become local only. But now he's saying that anything that was originally intended or built as workforce housing, which I'm not sure if we know exactly every building that is going to be his focus, which is about 2,000 units. So
Hmm.
2,000 units out of the 7,000 is going to be his focus. Now, his thoughts around the other 5,000, he said if it looks like a hotel, runs like a hotel, smells like a hotel, everyone thinks it's a hotel, then those properties should rezone as hotels and they should pay hotel taxes, etc., as hotels do. Now, that was an interesting point because we know some of those properties, right?
Agreed.
You think about Kamole Sands, it looks like a hotel, feels like a hotel. Everything is rented in there, mostly.
Papakea.
Papakea,
Mm-hmm.
same.
Hockey Maui, just about.
Paki Maui. There's quite a few of them that, I mean,
Really
they
are.
literally feel like a hotel. They have front desks, that sort of thing. Now, exactly how they go about rezoning, he didn't mention if, I mean, he said they should rezone as if like the property is in charge of that, or I mean, 400 individual owners need to go about, or if it's a county thing, because typically zoning is done by at the county level. Yes.
It is. And that's kind of an interesting comment on something that has been brought to everybody's attention is that we are outdated with our zoning. There needs to be updates based off of usage, and that would fall on the county. I mean, I just don't understand why. It's interesting because if you do put it all on the owner's laps, well, that just crams up the county, which is already crammed up. Can't get much done
Yeah.
quickly.
Can you
So it's
imagine
very interesting.
5,000 units
Yeah.
applying for
Yeah.
hotel
Yeah.
zoning variance?
Yep.
And that might take 15, 20 years to figure out. But so that's kind of the latest update that I'm hearing. No specific timeline on that. No specific next steps. Uh, but it does give a little bit of an insight into where potentially this goes. Now, how do you think that affects where we're at, Johnny? Because we've been talking, this might
Mm.
be the kind of the bottom level for the hotel zoned properties
Yeah.
before prices may go up, and this might be kind of the top for those in between that we're seeing lower and lower and lower offers because of the uncertainty. So what do you think?
I think it's pretty confusing. Um, just pretty standard in how
Yeah.
things kind of roll along here, you know.
Yep.
The statement about workforce housing is always interesting to me because the current law reads that everything that is developed on Maui, half of it has to be sold as workforce housing. So
Yep.
theoretically, and that's always been my gripe about workforce housing, is it sounds like an amazing opportunity for exactly one family. And in the
Yep.
past, that one family who literally has to win by lottery, they make a bunch of money, dude, because they buy these things priced based off of how much they don't make compared to the median income in the county. And so
Yes.
literally developers have to sell some at a loss, etc. And in the past, there was really no checks and balances in there. Nowadays, they start putting in things like, restrictions on the deed where you can't sell it for X. And this is what happens whenever you get kind of government involvement in things, right? Is then it becomes a bureaucracy and has to be managed and, all these other things here. It definitely seems like if they really wanted to make moves towards workforce housing, they would kind of do it like Hawaiian Homes. And Hawaiian Homes is a whole nother a ball of wax, right? I mean, great in theory, but literally 6 months to close a residential deal with Hawaiian Homes. That's how long these things take, which is
At
amazing,
least.
right? Fluctuating interest rates. How do you even plan for that? Where it's going to be? So it's always interesting when bureaucracies are involved. We have that charity on island, the nonprofit Nahaleo Maui, and they build homes, much like Habitat of Humanity. But that is their process. There is an ownership of the land, and the house is therefore leasehold. But the benefit to leasehold is now it's still true ownership. You can do away with having to put in deed restrictions and all this other stuff. The price stays affordable because you've eliminated the cost of the land.
Hmm.
I feel like then it continues to benefit because how workforce housing is working now, again, benefits one family. And then it just becomes market housing after the fact. And I don't know, do we want to
Sure
have
does.
different? Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, what, workforce housing? I mean, does it become public housing? Does it become the projects? All
Well, then
interesting
it's
things,
also
right?
like you've said a few times on the Hulahan as we go through different properties. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this one is now 1.4 million, but this was original workforce housing for 250,000 for this 3 bedroom, 2 bath
Kahoma,
house.
Kahoma and
Or
Lahaina
yeah,
is just
Kahoma.
insane. $2 million values for stuff that was maybe sold 500-600 for the workforce housing person. It's just that's and unfortunately it really comes back to this vibe where we just don't want to build on the island because we revere the Aina, and I understand that, and that's amazing. And yet now we just have these wide open spaces where you have invasive grasses that just continue to cause fires. And if you're going to restrict supply, then the law of supply and demand still runs in the background, right? So if I have high demand and low supply, prices have to go up.
What
And
about the keiki?
yeah, man. And then,
People want to
then
have
everything
kids,
else is
right?
done
Next
artificially. Yeah.
generation. Next
Yep.
generation wants places and they want to keep them on island, but it's hard to keep kids. I mean, your kids are probably getting to that age where they could potentially start to think about having their own place, and it's hard.
You and I were talking. We were talking about Maui Sand, which is a leasehold property. Lease is coming up in 19, or 2000, what, 36, 38. In
Yep.
my opinion, it's like that's a great opportunity for the county maybe to go in and buy that land and then make it all apartment zone. And now you literally could have places that families get a start with, where Maui goes through the steps to ownership. I'm a single person. I buy a studio for 100, 200 grand leasehold, what have you, and I can actually make that payment there. And then I can keep going up those steps until where finally I can get into a home. But here on Maui, once you get your housing, you're not going to move from it, man, because you've set your budget. Your income is kind of set around what that cost is, and that's why we don't have these move up, move down opportunities. Instead, we try to grow our houses larger so that we can have other family members come in, and we do multi-generational. So yeah, man, interesting times,
They get it starts to remind
interesting
me kind of
headaches.
this thought of what they do in Singapore is like first time families have the rights to certain properties for like 120,000. It's the same for everybody. and you get that first property for 120,000, and then there's some schemes kind of after that, but they sort of subsidize that initial purchase. And it's kind of a cool thing to help people out.
You know,
So
it's
there's
sad
definitely
that,
some creative ideas out there.
yeah,
I don't think we're really looking at anyone else for advice or help, but it could be beneficial.
it's a little short-sighted to feel that condos are going to be the saving grace, because you and I live in condos, and after the condo fell into the beach there in Florida, it has absolutely wrecked financing in condos, especially old condos. And guess what we have here on Maui? Nothing but
Old
old
condo.
condos built in the 70s, literally. And we don't tear them down because we don't allow it to rebuild again. And for these apartment zone ones that are on Minatoya, if you tore it down and built it again, well, now that's going to be, apartment zone, because it doesn't fall back into, was this built here in the 80s, and all these other little ancillary laws. And so, man, tough. We have secret lenders that can get deals done, but they're so unattractive. 35% down, rates in the 8%, DSCR loans, having to skirt around Fannie Mae. And I don't know if people in government actually understand what's happening, because nobody really likes realtors here. So nobody wants to talk to them.
Well, and
I
then
mean,
the
that's
other thing
just
is
facts, man.
the feasibility of it, and I'm sure a lot of people have talked about it. We've talked about it. Mayor
Yep.
Bisson said people are stopping him at Costco, and he's pissed off about it for stopping him, which is interesting for being a public
Yeah.
figure.
Don't want to hear
But
from the community, huh? Sorry, we're bothering you.
some people say, well, what about these apartment zone condos where the HOA fees are ridiculous, and we've seen it, right? Several thousands of dollars a month, and some of the ones in West Maui with special assessments and building projects and this and that. And he said people are asking him, well, like, how can the local families afford that? And his answer was a bit tongue in cheek, but like, hey, I know local people can live oceanfront and they should deserve to live oceanfront. I've seen it before. Why can't they do it again? Didn't really address the fact that $3,000 a month in HOA fees plus mortgage plus that, or if it's a rental, I mean, people don't do rentals as charities
No,
unless they're government. So then either you're talking about government ownership, or you're talking about asking people to operate at a loss potentially. Because I mean, long-term rents, that's part of the issue on some of these is the long-term rent doesn't necessarily cover the HOA fee, the taxes, the mortgage, all of those things. That's why rents are going up and up and up and up. That's why people want a vacation rent because they get more money. So pretty convoluted issue. Doesn't seem to be a lot of common sense across the board in terms of understanding. But we'll see.
let's make a quick comment here for those investors that are out there that, focus on short-term vacation rentals here on Maui because they churn out so much money. I want you to maybe consider a different perspective, because the Maui County is trying to change behavior by their tax basis. And what I mean by that is there is a long-term rental exemption program. And what that means is you fill out a form and you submit a copy of a 1-year lease, and it has to be 1 year, and you will get an exemption. And it's $200,000 to $300,000 reduction on the assessed value of the home, number one. And then your basis is probably going to be around $3 per thousand of assessed value. Compare that to short-term vacation rent. There is no tax. There is no exemption. No $200,000 to $300,000 reduction. You pay $11 and change per thousand, 3 to 4 times the amount. That takes up a significant amount of your return. So, just saying it there. That's why they did it. They wanted to change behavior. Let's dive into inventory here, Danny, and bust this out here. I got to get to a open house today. Anybody on the island in Napili, come check me out. 32 Polahina Lane, 18-7 is the unit. Just follow my signs. So, Danny, number one, I do want to show this pending figure right here. Have you seen it that low in a long time, Danny?
That's pretty low.
I mean, I remember boom periods, right in the height of COVID, 2022-ish. This was in the 600s. here's the scary reason why this number is so low. It just tells you stuff's not moving,
Not
and
moving.
it's getting consumed. So that's a low figure there. Guys, going to just go right through all of the various segments. So right now, 394 residential homes available on Maui for sale. I want to say that's a little bit higher than when we last checked. Still sub 400. You know, think, is the market going to correct? And I keep saying, well, I don't see the inventory, but then I'm doing some reading, you know, and I feel like there's a lot of money on the sidelines. Danny, would you agree? A lot of buyers kind of holding off on their purchases.
Oh
But
yeah.
maybe at the same time, you got a lot of sellers kind of holding back. So, you know, inventory is important, gang, because of the law of supply and demand. And that just says high supply, low demand, prices go down to consume inventory, and then the vice versa. Demand high, inventory low, prices go up. Vacant land, not much there. So 138 total pieces of inventory in vacant land. And condos, we got 780. So kind of hovering right in that 800 range. Not a whole lot of movement there. It's been interesting though, man. Like we're still selling vacation rental stuff.
More
So
so than the residential, right? I mean, the residential
yeah,
is pretty much park the car and, and gone for a walk because it
it
is not
it
moving.
kind
We
of
have some friends
has.
with multiple listings. They're not even getting showings. We've talked to a few potential sellers, and they're kind of shocked that the market is slowed down. I mean, one particular building, very popular in Kahului, that a lot of people ask us about, one pending contract so far in 2025.
Mhm.
Just one.
And can you get financing in that building, Danny, with any ease?
Depends on who the lender is, but so far now it hasn't been very easy.
Right.
Issues. I mean, we're talking 6 weeks of back and forth with the HOA. Again, another thing that we've mentioned here on
Yeah.
Hulahan is sometimes these HOAs, even though they are paid for by your HOA fees as the owner, are quite unwilling to give you the documentation you need to help sell your property. And sometimes they're even against it. They will
I
fight
have
you tooth and nail.
literally, I have literally sat in their lobbies there, Danny. I've driven to Kihei. I've sat in the lobby and just said, I'm happy to wait here until I can talk to somebody about what I need. And that's how ridiculous it almost feels like a backlash just because you're a realtor. And it's like, you don't understand. You're affecting your apartment owners association. That's who
Yeah,
you're
it doesn't
affecting.
affect me. You're affecting all
Yeah.
the people that
I,
pay your
I'm I'm
salary.
just here along this journey with somebody that said, "Hey, we need your professional help in getting rid of our property." That's it. So, let us take a look at our first property today, Danny. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Iliahi at Kealani. Started this out 216 days ago, 819,000. Now down 100,000. I'm going to imagine all of that carpet there, maybe. But dude,
People
these
are
were pushing
not
800 all
fans.
day long, right?
Yeah, people are not fans of carpet typically on Maui. I kind of
Well, here
liked
it
it in
is.
my place. We had carpet. I love laying on the
Yeah,
floor, but I know most
it's
people hate
quiet.
it.
Yeah, just because we have a sandy rice eating lifestyle over
Especially when you
here.
got whitish carpet, red dirt. I
Two
mean,
things I hate to walk on is sand and rice. Local problems. 1,258 square feet. These are great in size, but right there, Danny,
oof.
$1,284 for the maintenance fees. I'm just going to go back just a little bit in time. Maybe I won't. But anyway, I'm sure that that was probably, you know, in the 400s, 2005-ish, and it's just kept climbing there. Big reason here, guys, insurance. Even though Iliahi is nowhere near the ocean, it's still collateral damage. Mahana ground floor unit. Look at that one there, man. You say Mahana's like living in a cruise ship, but ground floor is nice too. Amazing views. You can't build this close to the water any longer. 2.349 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath there. $4,010 for the fees. I'm not even sure if that's all of it, but they're not giving us a breakdown. There it is, special assessment, Danny, 2703. So add that to the 4,000. That's what you're paying, close to 7,000 a month. That means 84 grand of fees before you start to put money in your own pocket there. Royal Kahana, Danny, 675 for unit 213. This one here, view over the pool area there. Fees have gone up there, 1280. Not sure if that includes their special assessment. Doesn't talk about it, but we know that there's one there. So that's the scoop. Maintenance fees went up 500%, I want to say. Is that what Rob shared with us? Crazy,
The
crazy
insurance
times.
cost, yeah.
Yep. Well, they love the ceiling lighting that they did in their kitchen there. 1,399,000, Danny, for a single family with detached ohana, 1,600 square feet. Detached ohana, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 504 square feet. I'm saying that that's attractively priced, dude.
That looks pretty attractive for Kihei.
I mean, it really does. I don't know what's going on with some of these red walls, if they're eliminating them. Definitely a lot of feng shui vibes throughout there. Definitely added some pieces of furniture. Okay, so I think I went to the ohana. I saw a second kitchen there. But anyway, that's good action right there, guys. So there's the ohana. There's the main house right there. I don't see that one lasting very long, Danny. That is what local people look for, is multi-generational or rental opportunities to help out with the monthly mortgage. 1,000,005, even though it's 1,025 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath on 0.67 acres. That's still good value for a 3 bedroom up in Kula. So we'll keep an eye on that guy there. Is that the goat that they have out in front, or is that their little puppers?
Someone made an
Uh,
appearance.
yep. Doesn't show much view, garden view. That's why they didn't lead with it. Look at this guy here, Danny. 7.995. This is right in my hood area in the Peelers. Oh, that one is right on Hui Road, right in the front, bro. You know, we were on that silly West Maui magazine, the family and I, and we took our photos way out here. I think that's where it is. Give me 1 second, gang. I gotta see.
Yep,
Nope. No. So that's Honokiana. So that is the kind, yeah.
that's the point, yeah.
That's not Hui though. So no, this is just the kind, Honokiana Cove. So this is right. So Stevie Nicks is right here. So this is the one right next door. That's Little Makaha right there. Excellent snorkeling right in here. Lots of turtles. Yeah, that's right down. There's a excellent opportunity right here for that one because the Ohana burned and they're not fixing it. They're selling that one for 4.8. That's right along here. John Severson, the owner of Surfer Magazine, had the house that was right over here, and it's kind of a funky looking surf shack. But man, here we go. Cancellations. Kahana Sunset, D6, 254 days on the market. Never touched the price, and it never moved. That's because Kahana Sunset has some real big issues. This guy here, 49 days in, no action. Take it off the market, please. This guy right here, Wailea Ekahi, didn't even make it a month. No calls. Take it off, please. And Kauhali Makai gave this guy a year, 569. Did some price reductions, but studio not moving there. Molokai Shores, 364 days in, some price reductions, but no action there. Palama Street gave him 91 days. That one's expired. So started at 2,050,000. That is not oceanfront. That's an interesting leading photo. Kihei Akahi has expired, 89 days. They gave him 3 months, and we're not touching the price. Go. Pano Place on Molokai. Yes, you can still buy homes for under 400,000 in Hawaii, just not on Maui these days. And Danny, I tried selling this one to so many people. And yeah, 2.5, man, got it done. Conventional. Shout out to Mark. He's in our office. Well done there. He represented the buyers. Papali Wailea, man, maintenance fees went up quite a bit. They're supposed to drop here. There was a fire at one of the condos. I don't know what happened with the insurance, but the AOAO ended up rebuilding that guy. That's why it's so high there. But 5 million became 4.690 with cash. You're going to see double here. Those live like residences, so they were advertising them in both ways. They are still technically condos, just no adjoining walls. Shout out to Jen and Danny, Nanakai Street. Was this the one? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the coin.
Yep. So there it is. I just can't pay full price. Will you give me 17,000 off? All right. 5 days in, I would have made that deal too, especially in this market. That's how you price it, guys. Look at this, Danny. Little bidding war. I'll go 55 over. I'll go 55 over. All right. Bingo, bango. So that is the
Unique one.
scoopy scoop on the inventory on Maui Real Estate. Danny gave us an update on Bison. It's all the things, guys. Surf report today. Windy, still had some waves. We do have a cold front coming in, so it's sort of gray up here in the Napili. That's why I'm doing an open house. Open houses are best on Maui when it isn't a
When
beautiful
people
day
are
outside.
bored.
That's it. What are we going to do? Let's go by this open house. So
Let's go look at open houses.
come see me.
Appreciate you tuning
Come check
in.
me out.
Go see
Yo,
Jonny. Hit him up for a coffee or smoothie if you're on the island. If you have
please do.
comments, questions, concerns, drop it in the comments. We'll address it. Otherwise, until next time.
Peace.
Aloha.
Aloha.